And Barry, can you please admit people in the lobby?
Yes, got it. Thanks.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Dorcas Faybatten, and welcome to Provider Data Summary. Today, we are going to cover State of the State in Virginia's Developmental Disability Services for November 2023. Next slide, please. Okay, so our goal today is to cover introduction, activities of Office of Provider Network Support, performance measures and demographics, plans for report automation, statewide and regional service data, identified service gaps, and handle follow-up questions. So our mission for the Office of Provider Network Support, our mission is focusing on developing and sustaining a qualified community of providers in Virginia so that people who have developmental disabilities and their families have choice and access to options that meet their need. We have three primary outcomes, and the focus is on individual, provider, and the system. For the individual, the focus is that people with developmental disabilities live personally meaningful lives in their community of choice. For the provider, the purpose is that providers of developmental disability waiver services have access to information and technical assistance that support best practices. And for the system, DPHDS provides resources for support coordinators and providers that are based on promising and best practices in supporting people with developmental disabilities in Virginia. Well, in 2023, the Office of Provider Network was reorganized into two distinct capacity building teams at the following levels: provider team and system team. 3 statewide positions were defined, focusing on individual and family waiver support, regional support teams, and complex support to more effectively accomplish our mission. And the diagram below is a brief overview of both what the system team and the provider team do. So if you are a provider or interested in becoming a provider and you need assistance with anything other than HCBS, RSC, or complex support need, please reach out to the provider team. And if you are a support coordinator and you need assistance with anything other than HCBS, RST, and complex support situations, please reach out to the system team. And you can use the link below to access our contacts list. But remember, you can reach out to, if you are in doubt, reach out to any CLC, and we will support you or point you to the right person to contact. Now, the basement measurement tool considered the following services as more integrated. And the services are as follows: benefit planning service, community coaching, community engagement, community guide, electronic home-based services, employment and community transportation, independent living support service, in-home support, peer mentoring, shared living, supported living service, crisis support service, private duty nursing, skilled nursing, sponsored residential. And as of October 31st, 2022, group home residential less than 5 bed or less than 5 individuals, and group home residential supporting 5 individuals and over were also included on this list. So here is a time frame for the report. The baseline is from June 2018 through May 2023. And for this reporting period is from May 2023 through November 2023. And below is a subset or sub-region that you can find from the tool. So data included in this report is determined through the use of the baseline measurement tool, which is now available online. You can click this link and it will take you to Power BI. Eric is going to demonstrate how you can access the tool. To access the baseline 2023 baseline information tool, you can click on the link below, which is https://dbhdbs.virginia spelled out .gov/developmental-services/provider-network- support/ and it will take you to provider network support webpage. You can also go to DBHDS webpage, click on Getting Help, go to Provider Network, and scroll down. You would find Virginia Provider Data Summary, and the document is there for you to access. So thank you. I think that will be all for me, and I'll hand over the baton to Mr.
Barry.
Siva.
Just Barry. Good morning, everyone. And Dorcas, if you take over the meeting again, that'd be great. So I'm Barry Seaver. I'm with the provider team, and I'm going to go over the activities of the Office of Provider Network Supports. Next slide. So the My Life, My Community, or MLMC provider database and provider designation process, we established that in November of 2019. It's free for all providers. There's no cost to it. As of April 2023, 260 providers have registered. We have 4 providers that are holding badges in autism, accessibility, behavioral support, and complex health supports. This is a current focus of one of the DBHDS Quality Improvement Initiatives, or QII. The QII goal is to increase the number of providers on the statewide database who hold a specialty designation to at least 5 unique providers in each specialty area. So we are building this database, we're working to build that database to be the spot that we will be asking support coordinators and others who are searching for providers to use that. And those designations are going to help them to identify specialties amongst providers. So hopefully you'll get a chance to register for those. Now, associated with that, with the provider designation surveys associated with the accessibility, autism, behavioral sports, and complex health needs, we're looking to have a focus group to help with looking at those surveys and maybe redesigning those surveys. That is going to take place, the focus groups, March 7th at 10 a.m. If you are interested in being part of that focus group, use that email address that's right there, provider designation at dbhds.virginiaspelledout.gov, to express your interest and to be included in the focus group for that. This is really important, so we need your input for it. This is overall what we're looking to do. This is a quality improvement effort. We really want to help with providers showing the quality that they provide and build up that network. So for our office activities from May 1 to November 30th, 2023, we provided technical assistance regarding various aspects of the DD waiver to 255 providers from 57 unique providers through this reporting period. We met with 71 unique providers seeking to diversify or expand services. In Region 1, there were 30 providers. Region 2 had 3 providers. Region 3 had 5 providers. Region 4 had 19 providers, and Region 5 had 14 providers. So the services being added or considered were group homes, 14, therapeutic consultation, 3, employment community transportation, 2, in-home support, 7, supported living, 4, Support Employment 1, Community Engagement / Coaching 6, Sponsored Residential 29, Group Day Support 1, Service Facilitation 2, Electronic Home-Based Services 1, Assistive Technology 2, Companion 2, Personal Assistance 4, Respite 3, Independent Living Supports 1, Peer Mentoring 1, Individual and Family Caregiver Training 4, and there was one that was uncertain. Barriers that pop up are not understanding the requirements, adjusting to changes in requirements for legally responsible adults providing services, the rates, needed business license, needing DBHDS license, and regulations not permitting provider to offer employment services in a segregated setting. Peer mentoring credentialing training was offered by the ARC of Virginia on June 14th and 21st of 2023. 4 out of 5 participants were credentialed, bringing the current total number of credentialed mentors to 18. A professional development workshop was offered on September 28, 2023, and was attended by 11 mentors out of the 19. The Jumpstart Funding Program awarded $59,512.10 during this reporting period. Part 5 training in the Commonwealth of Virginia Learning Center, or COVLC, continues to be available online. Additional training, including ISP training to a total of 11 participants, Part 5 training to 91 participants, documentation training to 120 participants, DSP orientation and competency training to 45 participants, supported living sessions to 39 participants, person-centered thinking training to 44 participants, and regional support team training to 45 participants. If you're interested in any of these trainings or other training opportunities, please contact your provider team CRC for your region. So we continue to have the provider roundtables. So in May of 2023, presentation forum had 350 participants. July of 2023, provider roundtable had 347 participants. And then October 2023, provider roundtable had 426 participants. So our Office of Provider Network Supports, we reconvened the Provider Issue Resolution Work Group, or the PIRW, and started a System Issues Resolution Work Group, the SIRW. The purpose of these groups is to give providers and families a forum to provide recommendations to DBHDS, begin the work of implementing changes focused on system improvement. Again, quality improvement is what we're working for there. Each subcommittee hosted one large work group meeting, and each subcommittee of both work groups met to finalize our recommendations, begin determining what actions can be taken, and identify where additional approval or funding might be needed. So those subgroups are still working on, and the SIRW is still working on their initiatives and what they plan on pushing forward as recommendations. So this one's about the DSP orientation, supervisor trainer orientation, to become the trainer, the supervisor trainer. So completion of it from May 1, 2023 through November 2023. We're back in April, there was about 85, then it dropped to 61, 54. In the July period, we had 73, then 103 around that in that time frame, then 63 and 82 in October of 2023. So we do have quite a few people taking that training and becoming trainers. On our webpage, so you can see the link there at the top. When you go to the main DBHDS website, you'll see Getting Help, and then you can do the centralized training section and see where it goes to required trainings. We have a list of required trainings in there, recommended trainings, resources for training. And this is where all the DSP information, competency information can be accessed along with other trainings in there. And now I'm turning it over to Eric. Again, I just want to mention if you have a need for training associated with the DD waiver, please feel free to contact your provider team, CRC. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Barry. I'll I'll come on camera for just a second so you can see me. Good to see everyone. Glad you're here. I'm going to walk through most of the data related to the presentation. There are several slides, but there are also two new forms that we want to review with you that haven't been released yet, but will be released in short order. And then the second thing I want to do is demo the dashboard that Dorcas mentioned at the top of the call. So we'll go ahead and jump through. I think we'll have time to cover everything, but I might move quickly through some parts. All right. Okay, so these are the results for the DSP competency measures. This is the first of two measures. This one is pulled from the provider quality reviews. And basically what we do is we track the number of providers who did not receive a health and safety alerts for lacking documentation related to DSP competency requirements. So there were 235 providers who did not have an alert related to DSP competency documentation, which was 77.81%, so 78% success rate, which is still well below the 95% we're trying to achieve. But we are, through the PIRW, Education and Training Subcommittee, looking at how we can improve the competencies, how to streamline them, perhaps reduce duplication where it occurs, and so forth. So we'll be working on that in the coming months. The second one relates to the observation, direct observation by reviewers of competence. This is pulled from the person-centered reviews that are conducted under the quality service review process. There were 492 PCRs that did not have an alert, which was 85.27% of the total. Still about 10% below target, but slightly better than the documentation result. Another measure that we track is individuals, at least 75% of people with a job in the community chose or had some input into choosing that job. This is pulled from the FY 21-22 NCI report. Basically, if you look down the state, you'll see the top four were significantly above average in the 97 to 100% range. And then within average, you'll see Virginia down toward the bottom, still with a respectable 92%. So we are exceeding the 75% target for this measure based on NCI results. These are four additional measures that we track. You'll notice there's yellow and green here. And so when we report on this for settlement agreement purposes, we pay attention to the green result because the indicators are actually written to target individuals in residential settings, which we would define as sponsored, supported living, and group home. So that's what the green represents. The yellow is for all individuals because these are important, and it's something we want to pay attention to for everyone, but we actually use the residential result for measuring. So 50% of the people who do not live in the family home had some input on choosing their housemates. 75% had input on choosing where they live. 86% chose or helped decide their daily schedule. And 95% participated in the development of their own service plan. We score very high on these. We have historically. I think they're just embedded in our processes. So it's validating to see the results be so high. All right, the next one relates to achieving an increase of 3.5% annually in people being served in most integrated settings around employment and day services. So the top table you see here is kind of the breakdown of the bottom table. The bottom table is what we use, which kind of rolls everything up together. But group day support is seen as a less integrated option among the options listed. So adding group day in gives us our denominator. And our numerator is all the individuals who are not in group day counted separately as the numerator. So we have seen a 2.2% increase over the past year, when we look from September 30th of 22 to 23, if you look at change from baseline, you can see that back from 2016, we have had a 191% increase in people in more integrated day settings. The next one is kind of a aggregate result of people in DD waiver being supported in integrated versus non-integrated settings. And our target for this one is 2%. We actually did meet that 2% in the last report. I think we were slightly over 2%, maybe like 2.3. I'd have to go back and confirm that. But we did meet target last report. This report, we've seen an increase of 1.4%, which is below the 2% needed, but we also saw a decrease in people in non-integrated settings by 1.6%. And you'll see the overall integration included here for 9/30/23 at 90.3%. So as a system, over 90% of the people are receiving services in integrated settings for residential options. All right, so this table is just a breakdown of that aggregate result. So you see the one setting that's not integrated is greater than 4-bed group homes. All the others are integrated, so the others roll up into our numerator, and then we add the group home for our denominator. But you'll notice, for example, that the percentage of people living in larger than 4-bed settings is at 9% as of 9/30/23. And you'll notice a steady decline in that number over time. So 2016, it was 21%. Then in 22, it was 11%. And then in 23, 9%. So we're seeing a downward trend on non-integrated, and we're seeing the opposite on more integrated. So you'll see an increasing trend for more integrated settings. All right, so additional information in the report is related to demographic information that is as part of the settlement agreement. We do provide the results for the breakdown regionally for people receiving the different waivers. You'll see that the total is 16,658, and then you'll see the regional breakdown total and then by waiver. Great. We also provide kind of one-off data points. So the number of licensed providers increased. It actually increased from, I think, 1,505 in the last report up to 1,714 in this report. Where you see the arrow, it shows an increasing trend, and then when you see the down arrow, it's a decrease. Those are just applied after the fact. They're not really part of the data report. It's just something that we do to kind of show from report to report whether there's an increase or decrease or no change. Individuals in training centers stayed steady at 66. The number of children residing in ICFs decreased to 104. Children residing in nursing facilities decreased to 58. Adults in ICFs decreased to 418. Adults residing in nursing facilities decreased to 161. And we saw an increase in independent housing to 2,122. This is licensing data that's pulled from Connect, and it shows us the different licensed services and the number of providers. And this is where that 714 came from. If we did a side-by-side comparison and we looked back to 4/30/23 compared to 10/31/23, you'll see the 1,505 and the 1714. And it looks like a lot of the increase was seen in supportive in-home from 255 to 341, sponsored from 149 to 180. Group home, I don't have the bed size, but 591 to 639. Day support saw an increase, so you can kind of see where the increases are if you compare the last report to the current report. All right, this is another way of looking at authorizations. So this is the total number of unique individuals authorized for each service type in a 6-month window. and it's shown a breakdown of total number of individuals per service and then the regional breakdown. And we do tease out CIS level 6 and 7 to demonstrate that we are paying attention to folks with the most complex needs, having access to the most integrated options. So this is a way for us to kind of track that alongside the total counts. You'll notice that the total individuals is 16,300. And you'll notice here that it's pretty comparable with Region 3 being slightly lower and Region 5 being slightly higher. This is in the report, so you'll be able to look at that. We also provide updates on behavioral service providers. So you'll notice that year over year, the total count of providers has increased on the left-hand side of the slide. And then those that enrolled or new providers in the same period per region are shown on the right-hand side, with most of the providers being located in Region 2, which is maybe not surprising considering the population density there. All right, so if you're looking for providers of therapeutic consultation on the website at the link here below, you can go and there's a search engine link that you can click on. And so Nathan Hobble has done a really good job of working with the providers around Virginia and getting them signed up for this database. So you can actually go into the DVHDS website and search for behavioral providers, trying to make it as easy as possible to find providers when needed. All right, we have a couple of walkthroughs. I'm going to walk through the Employment and Transportation Toolkit, and I'm also going to walk through a new form for electronic home-based services. So let's start with Employment and Community Transportation. Second. Wait a minute. Okay. Nope. Yeah. Okay. So we drafted this toolkit because we have, had a tough time standing providers up for the service, and it may boil down to it being the rate, but we want to make sure that providers are understanding kind of how to go about offering the service and how to document it. And so we created this toolkit to help providers kind of explore more realistically how to offer the service, because it is a new service in Virginia. It's unique, and we thought let's make it clear and easier for people to offer, and then we'll get some feedback in terms of whether or not there are still barriers to the service or still issues with the service. So if you once we send this out, there's a little welcome introduction narrative. There are some frequently asked questions related to ECT, like what are they, who can offer them, how are they limited, so what are the limitations of offering the service, what types of transportation is included, how do agencies confirm driver qualifications. So there's some helpful links in here, for example, how to access driving records through Virginia Driver Alert System, criminal history links, sexual offender registry links. How does reimbursement work? So it's kind of a narrative about how the billing is set up. Are internet print maps needed for authorization? No, but you'd keep them on file. So that's just a clarification. And then these are the resources that are included in the toolkit. There's a flow chart basically of general steps in offering services. So what would a provider do and in what sequence to offer the service? Then we have some forms that are helpful to meet requirements, such as the ECT driver checklist. And this is an Adobe form, so you can go in and fill it out and keep it on file. All right. You have an initial file completion, but then as long as the driver is on board, you'll have an annual completion, completed review of their documents. And so the first 3 years are offered here, but you would continue if the person continues to offer services as a driver. And then if something pops up on their driving record or criminal history report, there's the option to put a date that they are removed as a driver. Each driver has to do a criminal attestation, and they have to report whether they've been convicted of a felony or if they've appeared on a sex offender registry. And then they can have an option to explain. This is signed by the individual, the SDM, and the driver. There's an individual record checklist. So for each person in the service, there are certain things that you have to keep on file. So this is just a way to kind of create an index for the record of the things that have to be on file. Part of the reason we have delayed releasing this is because these two forms, the trip plan form and the addendum and the trip log. So these are DMAS forms. You'll notice they have DMAS numbers on them. But because we have made some changes in terms of the elements that are collected, we are working with DMAS to see what approval is needed to include them in the toolkit. But they have been modified to kind of simplify what you are recording for each trip. So, for example, you only have to put whether the person is coming from employment, volunteering, or community inclusion. You would just pick one of these. And then what ISP outcome does it support? Point of origin, like it's going from their home to a certain address in the community, arriving at their employment site at this address. So you don't have to put their home address or where they're leaving from in the community. You just have to put where they're going to. And then the provider would have the Google map on file, which would show both addresses. Okay. And there's an addendum, and then the trip log is now in Adobe as well. And we did add total trip miles for each trip. We got some feedback from a provider that having this on here would be helpful when it comes time to submit billing, just to kind of have a record of the total trip miles for each trip. And then the Medicaid memo was included as well. So this will be released as soon as we get clarification from DMAS on what is required for getting approval on these updated forms. They're good with the forms. We just have to see if there's any kind of formal process we have to go through, like public comment for these forms. All right. Next, let's look at the EHBS form. We did, just before this call, get approval from DMAS to go forth with this form. So we will be sending it out through listserv hopefully this week. But basically, it's an assessment tool for EHBS. And part of the reason it was developed is to kind of remove perhaps one of the biggest barriers to this service. And the biggest barrier is obtaining an assessment from an occupational therapist or from a behavioral analyst. So basically, it was modeled after the Oklahoma Enabling Technology Assessment Tool, which I believe was from 2022. And it's all automated entry so that folks can go in and fill it out in Adobe. It has individual contact information, or individual name, date of birth, support coordinator name, who completes it. So it doesn't have to be completed by the clinician. It can be completed by a team member and then shared with a clinician for review. I'll get to that as we get further down in the form. But it collects how the individual communicates, whether they use gestures or voice or body language, what their primary language is, if they speak using words. Basically, that the individual and the SDM, if they are eligible or approved for the service, that they are choosing to request the addition of the service. Will the addition decrease a need for Medicaid services? So this is in the regulations. Who will support the individual with the technology? So residential, day support, whoever's going to be supporting the person with their services. List the current, I guess it would be primarily residential, like in-home, for example. List the current assistive technologies used in the home, work, or community. So what are they currently using? What outcomes does the person wish to receive through the use of the service? Does the individual currently use or have previous experience using technology? And for this, you can only check one, but it's kind of like a Likert scale in terms of increasing or decreasing use of technology. And then for considering supports that could be beneficial based on the individual's needs, the person completing the form with the team would look at what types of things would be beneficial for the person using EHBS, such as locking doors, using a telephone, arranging transportation, med administration, overnight safety, fall detection. So there's a way of listing the person's possible needs here. And then what accessibility features need to be considered? So larger text, loud volume, big buttons, anything specialized for the person. How will the service benefit the person? Is there any additional information? Is technology being requested available under state plan or DME? So, if it is, then we can't authorize the service, but if it isn't, then it can be authorized. So down here, qualified professional recommendation, you'll notice, I'll try to zoom in, that this has been clarified. So typically it's been an occupational therapist or a licensed behavioral analyst who could authorize the service, but we've gone farther to define similarly licensed professionals. So we've included in that list of options, primary care physician, psychiatric provider, or physical therapist. So if if a team fills out this form and the person is seeking the service and agrees to it, this form could be presented, for example, to the person's primary care physician, as a licensed professional has the ability to recommend this service. So down here, I agree the individual has and we're going to add, I think, a little bit of text to both of these that says, based on my, here it is, based on my experience providing services to this individual, I agree or I do not agree that they have the physical and cognitive ability to participate in the service. That would be signed by the professional, whether it's a primary care physician, an occupational therapist, etc. So we're hopeful that adding clarity to who can complete the assessment or recommend the service, that will help remove some barriers to folks accessing it. All right. And if you have questions or suggestions for anything, just please make sure to put that in chat so that we can respond in this call or later. All right, so demo. So this is the new dashboard that will be available publicly. Actually, it already is because we loaded it to the website this morning. So you can actually go in today and see this dashboard. Hold on, I'm looking for something. Wait a minute. Here we go. So when you get the report, or if you go to the website, you're going to be able to link directly to the dashboard. So in the report, it's found right here. And let's see. Okay, and if you go to the website, whoop. If you go to the website, okay. If you go to Getting Help and you go to Provider Network Supports, this is what Dorcas was mentioning earlier, and you scroll down, you'll see Virginia Provider Data Summary, and it's this first link that you see right here. So you'll be able to click on that, and it will take you into the dashboard, which is in Power BI. Okay, I'm going to go to the first tab here. So this will update each quarter. So you'll be able to go in here, we'll get it posted online. You'll be able to go in yourself at any time and check the most recent data. Some of this data is also, we do a screenshot and move it into the actual report, but you'll be able to go in and see it yourself. So these are the individuals by waiver type, and you'll notice up here it says period. So you'd want to go in and pick the time or time frames that you want. If you want to pick multiple, if you hold control, you can pick multiple and it'll add the numbers together. If you want to pick one, you just select it and it will show you the result for that time period. So make sure to select period up here when you're looking at the data. We've also included some instructions here and there to kind of help you understand how to use it. So here you can advance forward with next page with this arrow. But if you choose to, if you click the of here in the middle, you're going to get a menu that you can jump to different pages instantly. So that'll be helpful for navigating the data. All right, so let's use the arrow for now. A minute. Okay. So this is included in the report. This is the one where we track an increase in the availability of services over time by locality. One of the things I want to have corrected in this visualization is that, and then maybe it's just me, but November comes on the left-hand side and May on the right-hand side, and I feel like those should be switched. My tendency is to look for the older data first, moving to the more recent data. I don't know if any folks have any opinion on that or if you'd like it one way or the other. But when I look at this, it seems to be misleading because it looks like an increase on the right-hand side from 76.7 to 78.2, but it's actually a decrease because you have to read the chart the other way. So I'll work with our IT department to see if we can get that switched around. So we did not meet this target. We actually had a decrease in service types by 2 localities. So you see we went from 104 to 102. There was no change in provider count across localities. Okay. Next, you're going to see the series of graphs that we usually have in slides. So instead of doing that, I'm going to kind of go through these quickly and just sort of discuss different trends that seem apparent in our review. So for the most part, you're going to see increases in services. So all of these services, supported living, sponsored, shared living, and in-home, I think we have an increase, except shared living maintained the same, but we did have increases in the other services. And you can see the numbers down here are helpful if they don't show up on the line graph. So we saw increases in in-home and sponsored residential right here. We saw a slight increase in people in shared living. So the left side is provider count, the right side is individual count. While we didn't see a change in providers for shared living, we did see one more person get authorized for shared living. So just remember when you're on the right-hand side, you're looking at individuals, and the left-hand side, you're looking at providers. All right. We saw some increases in community coaching and community engagement. We saw increases in community coaching and community engagement individuals, but just one person for community coaching, much more for community engagement. Crisis supports, no change in providers. We've actually seen a decrease over time in the availability of this service. In 2018, we had 5, and now we're down to 1 in the 2 most recent reports. We had 15 people authorized in 2018. We went down to 1 in May, and 2 more people have been authorized since May. Private duty and skilled nursing. You'll notice we've had an increase in both services, but skilled nursing has a smaller increase of just 1 provider. When we look at individuals, you'll notice a decrease in people in private duty and an increase in people in skilled nursing. When we look at some of the adjunct services, Community Guide, EHBS, ECT, and peer mentoring, Community Guide has the same number of providers. We added 1 provider of EHBS. We lost one provider of ECT, and we gained one provider of peer mentoring. When you look at the right at individual counts, you'll notice Community Guide went down by 3 people. Electronic home-based services went down from 102 to 88. And ECT went from 15 people down to 4 people. Peer mentoring increased from 1 person to 10 people. So these are the services that we're really paying a lot of attention to because they are the newer options and we're trying to increase use of them. Right. Group home residential less than 5 and 5+. So you'll know less than 5, we saw an increase from 466 to 507. And for providers of 5+, there was no change across the report period. It was 114. For individuals authorized less than 5, we saw an increase of about almost 200 people between May and November. 5+, we actually saw a decrease of about 100 people. So this matches back with our graph where we saw the 1.4% increase in integrated settings and a 1.6% decrease in non-integrated settings. So that kind of aligns with that earlier data that we looked at. The next section looks at regional data. So the colors represent the regions in all of these. You'll notice that we're looking at the different services and the changes in providers across regions and across time. We're still sticking with our 2018, May 23, and November 23 data set. So you'll notice not a lot of change. It looks like Region 2 lost a benefits planning provider. So if you are in Region 2 and interested in offering that service, there may be an opportunity there that just opened up. Community engagement, it's more or less an upward trend in providers across regions, particularly in Region 5. Community coaching, pretty consistent, an increase in Region 4 in community coaching providers. Community Guide, pretty consistent, although Region 3 is red. So I was over here, it was Region 3. Region 3 saw a decrease of 2 providers of Community Guide. Because of the nature of this service, it could be, it is short-term, so it could be appropriate that folks leave the service and then no one else comes on board right away. Electronic home-based service providers, you'll see that extra provider we gained was in Region 2 in green. Independent living supports increase over time, going from 8 to 10 in Region 2 and 9 to 10 in Region 5. Looks like we dropped a provider in Region 3 and gained a provider in Region 4. ECT, we have 2 providers in Region 1 and then 1 provider in Region 2. So we lost a provider in Region 1 for ECT. In-home support providers by year, month, and region. So this is in-home increases over time. So you'll see Region 5 has seen a lot of activity in in-home. Same thing with Region 2. Peer mentoring providers, you'll see the change here. We gained a provider in Region 4. Slight increases over time in supported living. Maintenance and shared living with a low count of 1. Crisis support services, you'll notice a decrease over time that we saw earlier from 3 in Region 2 down to 1 in Region 2 and none now in Region 3 and 4. Consistent results for private duty nursing, increasing trend in sponsored, particularly in Region 5. And skilled nursing, we see a decrease over time. Lost a lot of providers in Region 5 of skilled nursing. They may have opted for private duty. Group residential, less than 5. So these are the smaller group homes. See the increasing trends there. Oh, the other thing, when you're in here, if you see data that is cut off, if there's a slider bar at the bottom, so you'll have to scroll over to see all the data. Just be mindful of that. And then 5+ bed homes, you'll see kind of a decrease here in region 4, decrease in region 1, decrease in region 2, decrease in region 4, decrease in region 5, except there was an increase between May and November. So we added 2 providers of larger group homes in region 5 in the last report period. This is the data Barry showed earlier. So this is the DSP supervisors completing supervisory training. We don't have the denominator here. We only have the numerator, but we still track how much activity occurs in the COVLC in completing this training. And so you'll see all the data points where the data is pulled with the high of 103 around July. All right, baseline measurement tool. So if you've used it in the past, it's been in Excel. And so we have converted it from Excel to Power BI. So the Excel file will go away. That's gone now. This will be the method of using the baseline measurement tool. So when you click on the of here, you'll notice that there are actually 4 pages related to the BMT. And we'll walk through each one now quickly. So the primary view is here, where it's locality based. You'll see count of individuals at the top, and you'll see counts of providers at the bottom. We use the same coloring scheme where 0 is yellow, 1 is green, and 2 or more is blue. So over time, we are looking for more blue in the chart. Now, if you go up here to date, it's going to default to the most recent report, but you can go back and choose earlier time periods if you want to see other time periods. You can go all the way back to 2018, you see there's very little blue. But then if we jump forward to November, you'll see that the blue is increased, which is what we want to see. Except, let me see. If you want to look at a specific locality, for example, let's say you're interested in offering services in Alexandria. If you click on Alexandria, it's going to filter the result at the bottom just to Alexandria, and then you can see the providers that offer the services in Alexandria. So you might look at this and say, not sure I want to offer in-home. It depends. So you have to consider the population in Alexandria, and then consider if you think there's a service need here, you might reach out to CSBs and just ask if folks are having any difficulty finding this service. But you'll see all of that there. Click it again, it will take you back to the full page results. You'll see the instructions here about a reminder to select your date. All right, this is page 2. This is the regional breakdown. So you'll see the regional counts of providers for all the services. Again, use your bar to scroll over and see all the data, but much more blue regionally than we had at baseline. Total statewide provider distinct counts of services. So you can see here, total statewide provider distinct count. Distinct count by region is over here. And then total number of individuals receiving services in each service is here. So you can scroll over and see total count of individuals, and then total distribution of regional providers, 796. Okay. The last page here is the subregions. So you want to go, you're going to go forward to this page and then go back to go to 18 and then go to 17. This is a little bit blurry and some of these are a little bit small. So I'll have to work with IT to make this clearer and bigger so that it's easier to see. But you can, if you want to look in a certain region and you want to look in a certain locality in a region, maybe you're really interested in Waynesboro, you'll be able to filter the data by subregion 1B, which doesn't just include Waynesboro, it includes all these other neighboring localities because there's potential customer base in the combination of these areas. So if we were to go back here You see counts of individuals by subregion. So you see the breakdown. We were looking at 1B. So you see the FIS, BI, and CL breakdown, all waivers breakdown. You see the CIS levels breakdown. And you can do that for all the subregions. There are 4 per region. And then down here, it's doing the same thing by grouping the localities into those areas that you saw on the next page. So if we wanted to just look at, I don't know if this is going to work. Okay, so this is not doing the filtering below like the other page did, so I'll talk to IT about that. So basically, you would just have to look at 1B. You'd have to use your slider and go across to look at the different services and look at your individual population data here for 1B. All right, so that is that, and we have 3 minutes left. So I think I've gone through everything. Are there any questions in chat that anyone has? Okay. Oh, question about Power BI. Yeah, and you should be able to access this from your browser. It shouldn't be a problem. You don't need Power BI to access it.
There's a question about getting a copy of today's slides. We're going to be posting that on our webpage on DBHDS website.
Yep.
There's also a question about, does the psychiatric provider, are they included? The psychiatric providers include psychologists, MFT, and LCSW. I think this was the form that you were showing.
Yeah, a psychiatrist is a medical doctor, so licensed as a doctor, so a medical doctor. So then we count that on par with a primary care physician in order to recommend the service for EHBS. I see a question here about group day support not being listed. So the reason it's not listed is because when we initially started the process of the provider data summary, we only paid attention to the more integrated services. We did not pay attention to less integrated services. Then in 23, I think,
Yes.
last year, we decided to add group home, larger group homes, because we felt like we weren't telling the whole story without the larger residential settings. We did not at that time add group day support, but we could. If you think it's something that would be helpful to you as a provider, we can add that in as well. We'd have to work with IT to get it built into the visualizations, but we could add that data, certainly. So if that's something you'd like, let us know.
There's another question that says, I assume the electronic home-based provider should not complete this before it goes to the clinician, but an SC or other supporters could. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. Now, it doesn't mean the provider couldn't be a part of the team. I mean, I guess they could be part of the team, but it has to be filled out by someone who's not the provider and then taken to a qualified professional.
Another question is, how do we get the regional account of providers list? How do we get to the regional account of providers list?
Okay, so regional count of providers. So that is going to be on BMT page 2. So remember when I said there are 4 pages for the baseline measurement tool, which are all at the bottom of the dropdown. Page 2 has the regional provider counts listed here, and then the total providers down here. Okay. All right. Any other questions? How do you access the Power BI? So on the website I showed earlier, if you go to DBHDS, go to our website, you go to Getting Help, you can go to Provider Network Supports, scroll down to Virginia Provider Data Summary, and it's this first link right here. If you click on this, it will open the dashboard in your browser, it looks like it defaults to the first page of the baseline measurement tool. So if you want to go back, you can use the arrows, or you can click on of and then choose the page you want to go to.
I also placed that link in the chat.
Oh, thank you, Sophia. All right, so we are done. Thank you, everybody, for joining today. We will get the slides out to you ASAP. If you have questions or suggestions, just let us know. All right, take care. Have a good day.